Hello, I am Dr. Archana Shrivastava, and today we will discuss the basics of e-commerce. And we'll see what is e-commerce, that is introduction and definition. Then we'll see the main activities of e-commerce. We'll discuss goals of e-commerce, the various technical components of e-commerce, functions, advantages and disadvantages. So, what is e-commerce? I think in today's time, all of us have used it. We keep buying online. If we don't buy, then probably we, transfer some data, we write something, we acquire some, we transmit funds or data over the digital platform. So, e-commerce or electronics commerce or EC is the buying and selling of goods and services or transmitting of funds or data over an electronic network. Primarily, the internet and these business transactions occur either as business to business or business to consumer or consumer to consumer or consumer to business. So, these transactions can happen between the two companies, between the two organizations. Maybe there is a manufacturing company and they have a supplier. So, maybe that transaction between the supplier and manufacturer can take place digitally. Or maybe we can take the example of Amazon, where Amazon has a number of sellers, and any type of transfer of data or funds between Amazon and its seller is business to business or business to consumer, like the consumer goes and buys something from the online seller or acquire some information or learn something, or consumer to consumer, for example OLX or eBay, where consumer to consumer transaction takes place, or it could be consumer to business. So, any form of business transaction conducted electronically is e-commerce. So, for example, online shopping, electronic payment, online auctions, internet banking or online ticketing. All these will come under the arena of e-commerce. And now, what are the main activities of e-commerce? Is it only buying and selling of product, or it has a wider scope? Buying and selling, of course, that is one of the main activities, buying and selling of product or service. Then if you're buying or selling, then shipping can also be the main activities of e-commerce. So, how do you keep a track, like FedEx and all, of the product being shipped, or producing financial statements? That is also one of the activity of e-commerce. How much is the bill? How are you going to pay it? Then personalized customer services, that is also one of the e-commerce activity, because one of the drawback that people talk about e-commerce is that it is impersonal. So, to fill that gap, based on the information, based on the data, based on the interaction that a seller or manufacturer has with buyer, they can provide personalized customer service. So, you must have noticed, as soon as you log on to a particular website and you have already been there on that website, then suddenly you will get a personalized page. Maybe the page will welcome you by your name, and they have already observed your preferences, your taste. So, accordingly they will try to display the products or services. Sales, you can sell your products. Then corporate development, in terms of recruitment, in terms of providing the training, in terms of connecting different entities of a corporate, in terms of communication and all. So, this also one of the major activities of e-commerce. And new product research, the web is big, web is vast. So, there is lot of opportunities, lot of scope to perform a new product research. You can use it for web surveys, you can use it for acquiring the information and other things. So, these are the main activities of e-commerce. Then registration, you can register yourself Suppose before, lot of websites have this, most of the websites, before you start buying your products or before you start utilizing their services or before you utilize reading the content or reading acquiring some information, you need to register. So this is also one of the activity, and registration is important because that is how they get to know the customer, about the customers. Then the basket, where are you going to put your shopping? So you have a shopping basket, that is also another main activity of e-commerce. Then payment, once you select your products and put them in the shopping basket, you have to make a payment. So that that facility is also there, that is also one of the activity of e-commerce. Then product management, product code, product category, subcategory, product name, description, image, zoom, sizes, prices, all these are part of product management. So if the seller has to display its product, they have to have some product code. They put them in different product categories. For example, you must have visited Amazon. So how have they done their product management? They have identified different product categories, and under each category they have certain products, or under each category there could be a subcategories also. For example, women, then for women you have a formal clothes, you have ethnic clothes, or something else. And then under each category there could be some category, for example casual, and you can have formal. And then the product name under each of the category, then you describe about the product, because the customer has to it should be easier for the customer to find out the product that the customer wants. And then the image of the product has to be there, because they are looking at your product virtually, and then they should be able to zoom in or zoom out, and then the different sizes of the product and the prices. So this all comes under product management, and this is done on e-commerce. Then the order management, once you select your product, once you identify your product, and put it in a shopping basket, there has to be a facility to process your order. So list of products purchased, what all you have purchased, your information, your name, your account number, your email ID, your phone number, then details of place of delivery, where the item has to be dispatched and what time, and what is the payment information, the connected bank or the connected credit card number or the debit card number. All this information is a part, acquiring this information and working on it is a part of order management. So these are some of the main activities of e-commerce. Now, what are the goals of e-commerce? The primary goal is to reduce cost. The cost is reduced in terms of the operating cycle, in terms of time, in terms of a quick communication is possible. You can take care of the customers' complaints, customer grievances quickly. You can get connected to the various entities of the organization. So whether it's manufacturing, or whether it's recruitment, or whether it is customer relationship management, or whether it is sales service, if e-commerce reduces the cost to a great extent. And then the lower product cycle time. So for example, if there is a manufacturing company, say car manufacturing company, and they get their component from different vendors. So probably if they are using e-commerce, it's much easier to place order, procure their items, and track them through RFIDs, and reduce their overall product cycle time. Then faster customer response, availability of 24/7 services can be availed by the customer. And whenever customer has to inquire something, there's no limit of space and time, and the responses can be quick. Improved service quality in terms of looking at the customer grievances individually, and providing the customized service to your customer. For example, if it's for example FedEx, for example, here you can always keep a track where does your product has your product has reached. Then improved productivity, because you cut on you save lot of time, you save lot of cost. So, and you can use lot of technology to process your order faster. For example, suppose you need to buy a product offline in a brick and mortar store, you would find a long queue waiting for your number, and manually, maybe you will have to invest lot of time, and the person who is managing these bill and will also be investing lot of time in entertaining those customers. Whereas in offline, since we are using technology, at the same time lot of orders can be processed. So this also improves competitiveness in terms of this is also one of the goal, to improve competitiveness, because your market enlarges, your the communication is much more easier. You can get connected to n number of suppliers, you can have a good bargain from the supplier, and you can target a bigger market, enlarge your market. Expansion plans are easier to improve the competitiveness. And access to online global market, this is another goal, to expand your market, to access a bigger market. I think this is the most, one of the cheapest way to do it, have an online presence. Now we will look at the technical components of e-commerce, what all different components facilitate e-commerce. The first one has to have a client or PC workstation, so hardware or software that accesses a remote service on another computer, so that is required. Then the transaction server, a transaction processing system or a transaction server is a software system or software hardware combination that supports transaction processing. So once the client place, for example, an order, so there has to be a client machine which can access a remote service or which can access another computer, and then a transaction server, that's a software system, or it could be a combination of software hardware system, and that basically facilitates transaction. Then we also have database server. This is again a software system, or it could be a combination of software and hardware, and this component is basically a computer program, and it provides database services to other computer program, and it is as defined by the client server model. So the term may also refer to a computer dedicated to running such programs. So we have seen client, transaction servers, database server. Then there is database transaction. A transaction symbolizes a unit of work performed within a database management system against a database and treated in a coherent and reliable way independent of other transactions. So a transaction generally represent any such change in database. Then we have a router, that's a networking device towards that forwards data packets between computer network, and router performs the traffic directing functions on the internet, and a data packet is typically forwarded from one router to another router through the network that constitute an internet work until it reaches its destination code. And we also must have internet communication line. In subsequent slides let's have a look on the diagram. So this is the router. It typically connects different networks. Then this is your internal communication line. So there could be an optical cable, or it could be wireless, or there could be a phone line network that connects different computers or networks. So in this diagram you can see that there is a public network, there is a machine, there is a computer connected to a printer, and it is also connected through phone line to network camera, and it is also connected to a laptop computer, and your there's a phone is also connected there, and also the PC. So this is how internet communication lines are used. Then we have a transaction survey. So if you could see the diagram, sender request, user A sends request, and then the entire system has to maintain a persistent communication state and maintain relationship between clients and jobs. So sender A user A sends request, user B also sends request, and it goes to via communication line, it goes to the server. Or here's another example, these are two applications, then the transaction is taking place, and then the database management system. So we have a separate database, a separate server for database, and one is for transaction process. Now this is your database server. These are the two clients connected to the database server. So they are communicating over TCP/IP network. These are the separate database server. So user connects to the application server, and application server has to connect to database server. So we have client, application web server, and then the database server. Another look, suppose this is your local area network, LAN based client connection, and this is internet browser connection, and then these are this is one of the example of Microsoft. So we can just see the databases and how the application server. So we can see there are three links: client, local area network, then we have application server, then we have database servers. Now what are the functions of e-commerce? A, communication, delivery of information, documents to facilitate business transactions. So communication through email, communication through messages, communication through web phone, communication of transfer of information, documents, all this is the function of e-commerce. Then the process management, like automation and improvement of business processes. For example, networking of computers in an organization for transfer of for sharing and transferring data. Then service management, for example, Federal Express website that permits customer to track shipments. So most of the e-commerce websites, they permit their customer to track shipments. Then transaction capability, that means you should be able to buy and sell on internet, you should be able to select your product, and you should be able to pay for it. So that is function of e-commerce. Now let's look at the advantages. Faster buying selling procedure, as well as easy to find product. It's much more easier for user to scan through the products. Buying physically, it will be much more difficult. Buying and selling 24/7 or from any place. There is no space and time limitation. More reach to customers. There is no theoretical geographic limitation. You can sell internationally. Low operational cost and better quality of service. Easy to showcase best sellers. Personalized online experience. Like as soon as you log on to a website, you will have a personalized online experience. They already know your name, they already know your preferences, they know what do you like, and so accordingly they can present information. So they do a lot of data mining, data analytics, and store your information and to give you a personalized online experience. Then affordable employees. You need less number of people if you are using technology. Easier to encourage impulse buy. You can constantly, the advertisement can pop up, offers you can, display, and attractive products and nice packaging and all. So affordable, so you can induce impulsive buying. Customer get a less invasive experience. Lot of us do not like to you know visit shop, and people are inquiring, what do you want to buy? This is that some of us are very reclusive and not so introvert, so those type of customer find it much more comfortable buying online. Gain access to customer data easily because you have to do the registration, and otherwise also cookies and all that can capture a lot of personal information that can be utilized to benefit customer, to give a personalized experience. For example, and able to process high number of orders. So just imagine you are standing in the queue, how much time you need to spend just to do the billing. Whereas if you pay online, there is no waiting. You can just process high number of orders quickly, and there is no need of physical company setup. Lot of startups started with their digital presence. Easy to start and manage a business. Customer can easily select products from different providers without moving around physically. For example, Amazon has large number of sellers. Then low financial cost because you save lot of time, your production cycle reduces, your processing time is faster, and you invest less in physical setup, so there could be low financial cost, potential income because you are available all the time 24/7 to a bigger market. More flexibility to add and remove product. You just need to make change in the catalog. In a case of brick and mortar store, you need to physically remove the product. Potential exposure to untapped market much more easier if you have an online presence. Can scale business quickly. Expansion is much more easier because reach to a global market is possible without much investment. Wider choice and no wastage of time. You can go through a lot of products sitting at one place. Large variety of goods accessible easily. Availability of anonymous friendly advice on item one may like to buy or rent. There is always a help or advice available. Easier fund transfer. You don't have to carry a lot of cash. You don't have to go to withdraw cash and then carry it and take unnecessarily risk. You can just use online payment, and middlemen can be eliminated. You can directly get in touch with the manufacturer and producer, and that reduces the cost to a great extent. But then it's not that it does. Every coin has two sides, and apart from lot of advantages, there are also some disadvantages. So anyone, good or bad, can easily start a business. And there are many bad sides which eat up customers' money because it does not require much of investment. So it's much more easier to start your business, and there is no guarantee of product quality. The customer can never be sure what he or she sees will actually get it. Mechanical failures can cause unpredictable effects on the total process. For example, if your computer stops working or some virus enters, or power failure and any other thing. As there is minimum chances of direct customer to company interaction, customer loyalty is always on check, and because there's large number of sellers are available, so loyalty is a question mark. And there are many hackers who look for opportunity, and thus an e-commerce site, service, payment gateway, all are always prone to attack. So this is rampant these days. These hackers can actually play havoc with the e-commerce site and with the payment gateways. Then physical retail is still more popular despite decline. These people still go for shopping. Customer loyalty becomes a bigger issue as there is a minimal direct customer company interaction. In case of brick and mortar store, you physically meet the person, so a certain rapport is developed between buyer and seller, which does not happen in case of e-commerce. Now, inability to experience products beforehand leads to more checkout dropouts. So sometimes you pick up a product, put it in the shopping basket, but when the time comes to pay, you just leave it because you cannot experience the product. So that is also one of the disadvantages. then anyone can start an online business, which sometimes leads to scam and phishing sites. And hackers target web shop more than we think, and no one can buy during a site crash. This is something that not avoidable. Customer can't try before they buy. You just need to buy. E-commerce is also highly competitive because it is much more easier for others to enter, and you need to ship your product. So whatever said and done, even though you're buying quickly, but you will not get the product immediately. Shipping will take some time, and any online seller has to have this logistic facilities, tie-ups with shipping companies and all. And a depersonalized transaction, you just go online and pay. You do not talk to the person, you do not meet in person, and mechanical failures can get quite more punishing. And lack of knowledge to set up an online store resulting in annoyed customer so extensive is not very long. So existence is not very long, because lack of knowledge to set up an online store. And it's not very safe in terms of cyber attack, in terms of phishing, in terms of theft of data packets. And problems to sell products to a target group could also be a challenge. Internet access may not be accessible, and system security is one of the biggest disadvantage. And electronic data interchange standards have to be placed before you start operating, and a small business may find it difficult. So that's all from me today. Thank you so much.